Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's another one of those that you are not going to believe. Under the guise of closing the achievement gap between students of European ancestry and those of African and Latino heritage, victims of a government school in Illinois are now being put into segregated classrooms. Yes, you heard me correctly. 1950s, here we come. Apparently, education, quote unquote, officials in Illinois think that eliminating all white students from the class is going to help non whites perform better. At least that's what they want you to believe. So this explosive scandal just broken by the Wall Street Journal over the weekend. They had a headline: "To shrink learning gap, this district offers classes separated by race." Yes, it's true. This is in the Evanston Township High School in Evanston, Illinois. It's kind of north of Chicago, a suburb. Lawyers for the district claim that because white-free classes are optional, that the laws forbidding segregation and racial discrimination in public institutions do not apply here. So according to the Journal, almost 200 Black and Latino students have already signed up for this so-called, these affinity classes is what they're calling them. Absolutely no whites allowed. I'm not sure whether they do DNA testing or whether just looking at your skin is sufficient to block you from the class. But yeah, white teachers also totally barred from teaching these classes. Only BIPOCs are allowed. District leaders say that this makes non-white students feel more comfortable. They don't have to be in the presence of any students lacking enough melanin. And here's a quote from the Evanston School Board Vice President, Monique Parsons, speaking in November. She says, "Our Black students are, for lack of a better word, at the bottom consistently still, and they are being outperformed consistently. It's not good." She says, yeah, we need to do this. Obviously, white students are in a minority in this district. They represent about 44% of the student population, so they are not the majority oppressors, as the narrative would have you believe. Separately, the district superintendent, a guy called Marcus Campbell, he told the high school student newspaper, it's called the Evanstonian, that the goal of racially segregated classes was to provide, and I'm quoting here, "a different, more familiar setting to kids who feel really anxious about being in AP classes." Proponents of this madness point to a quote unquote study out of Oakland, California, that supposedly found that Black students in affinity classes were slightly less likely to drop out of school. Whether there was a causation relationship there or just a correlation was not made clear in the reporting. But yeah, so that's where we're at, folks. These classes being offered to only Black students in Evanston. They're called AXLE. That's supposed to stand for Advancing Excellence, Lifting Everyone. Although, of course, you and I both know excellence doesn't start with an X. They're going to call it AXLE anyway. And then the classes for Latinos only are called ganas, which means desire or motivation in Spanish. And they have white-free classes in Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus, AP Calculus, and even an English seminar. So the school board falsely claims that racism is the, and I'm quoting here, most devastating factor contributing to diminished achievement of students. That, of course, is a total fraud. The biggest factor contributing to the diminished achievement of students is the deliberately dumbing down process that has been going on for multiple generations. We exposed some of this in the book Crimes of the Educators some years ago. In fact, these methods that they use to quote unquote teach reading, these quack methods, have been debunked since the 1840s, and yet they continue to use them in government schools all across America, producing massive devastation among students of all colors, by the way, especially darker skinned students, as their own data shows. Now, there were some follow-up news articles that appeared on this issue after the Journal broke the story. You've got one by News Nation, a journalist calling herself Emily Finn, and she says they have similar segregation programs in government schools in Minnesota, in California, and Washington State. And they quoted a far-left civil rights attorney, Robert Patillo, who said these segregation programs, and no hint of irony here, are bringing more children together. Okay. We're bringing more children together by separating them by race. Yes. Okay. George Orwell, red line, please. Anyways, under the guise of covering both sides of this story, this fake journalist, Emily Finn, said the real debate here is about whether we believe racial segregation for students is healthy and enriching, or it's just a short-term solution to larger inequities in the community. No other opinions are allowed. believing that segregating students by their skin color is wrong is apparently not an acceptable opinion. Obviously, critics did highlight the absurdity of all this. Laura Wellington over at the Western Journal had a really insightful piece. She says, to merely exist as a white person today is to hold Black and Latino people down. She says this is what liberals and progressives want everyone to believe as they blame whiteness as the primary cause for the educational inequality in our nation. Now, the Wall Street Journal did try to get comments from this district, from the officials. They didn't respond, so they sent a reporter to a public meeting. They threatened to shut the public meeting down if the journalist would not leave. They've provided no data, no analysis showing that their racial segregation schemes are actually improving anything for anyone of any color. But they do have data showing that Black and Latino students continue to do much worse than students of European ancestry. Now, it is true, right, and we cover this in the book Crimes of the Educators, that the progressive architects of this abomination we call a public school system were actually super racist. They were steeped in this crazy ideology of eugenics, the pseudoscientific quackery that some races are better than other races and all the rest. Of course, if they had read their Bible, they'd know that there's only one human race. But anyways, the real reason why Black and Latino students are doing way worse in government schools today than European ancestry students has nothing to do with racism. It, of course, has to do with, and all the studies show this, that the vast majority of children from Black parents are growing up without a father in a single family home, which every single study that's ever been done on this shows is absolutely catastrophic from every perspective. You're more likely to get into crime, more likely to drop out of school, more likely to do all the bad things that you can think of. So what students need here, obviously, is not racial segregation. They don't need more teachers. They don't need more tax money. The teachers don't need bigger pensions. They don't need more after-school programs. They don't need more U.S. Department of Education help. What they really need is actual education, starting with phonics so that they can learn how to read, so they can educate themselves. They need strong families with fathers at home to guide and discipline their children. And of course, they need a biblical understanding of morality and reality to be able to form a good character. So if parents needed more reasons to exit this absurd system called the public school system, well, this flagrant institutional racism fueling hatred and division among children is a very, very good one. It's time for this whole cancerous education system to be uprooted and replaced before it destroys what's left of our little country. Thanks, guys.